A torn fragment of a Luftwaffe radio intercept crackles in static. Spitfire. Laughable. Slow. Obsolete. No threat. The accompanying photograph, grainy and blurred, shows a squadron of Messerschmitt Bf-109s in formation, their pilots smirking beneath dark goggles. Yet beneath their mocking bravado lies a dangerous blind spot, an enemy aircraft that would turn their daylight bombing raids over Britain into near disasters. How could the Luftwaffe's dismissive arrogance mask the true menace of the Spitfire? What was it about this fighter, scorned in briefings and derided in mess halls, that would unravel Germany's air superiority ambitions over the English Channel? The image of the Spitfire, sleek and almost fragile compared to the brutish German fighters, conceals a lethal secret that would only reveal itself in the skies above southern England, changing the course of the air war. The origins of the Spitfire's legend begin in the late 1930s, a time of fierce debate within the British Air Ministry. When the order was placed with Supermarine Aviation Works, there was skepticism. Why invest in a sleek, single-seat interceptor when bombers ruled the doctrine? A blueprint from 1936, recently uncovered, illustrates the elliptical wing design. Unusual, daring, and aerodynamic. The chief designer, driven by visions of speed and agility, faced opposition from those favoring rugged, heavily armed fighters. Meanwhile, German intelligence underestimated this project, labeling it a vanity, aircraft unlikely to influence the impending aerial conflict. Yet, beneath this dismissal was a deeper conflict. The Luftwaffe prioritized long-range escort fighters and bombers, neglecting the nimble interceptor that would soon haunt their skies. Was this misjudgment born of arrogance or critical intelligence failure? What internal conflicts blinded German command to the Spitfire's potential before it even took flight? By the outbreak of war, the Spitfire's specifications were both promising and paradoxical. Powered by a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, delivering up to 1,030 horsepower, it reached speeds exceeding 360 miles per hour at 18,500 feet. Its armament, 8.303 Browning machine guns, seemed modest compared to the heavily armed Bf-109's cannons and machine guns. However, the elliptical wings provided exceptional maneuverability, superior roll rate, and a tighter turning radius. Yet early models suffered from structural weaknesses, undercarriage vulnerabilities, and limited range. German engineers ridiculed the Spitfire's light armament and fragile construction, convinced it would crumble under combat stress. But was this underestimation a fatal flaw? Could the Luftwaffe's focus on raw firepower and armor blind them to the Spitfire's unique advantages in agility and pilot advantage? The blueprints and test pilot notes reveal a fighter designed not for brute force, but for dogfight supremacy. Why did the Germans fail to anticipate that? The first true test came on July 10, 1940, during the opening battles of the Battle of Britain. The Luftwaffe's Second Air Fleet unleashed waves of bombers, escorted by Bf-10-9s, expecting easy victories. British squadrons notably number 19 Squadron RAF scrambled Spitfires to intercept. Initial German reports echoed confidence. Spitfires are slow and ineffective. Yet the battle footage and pilot debriefs tell a different story. Spitfires engaged with unprecedented agility, drawing German fighters into close-quarters duels where the Luftwaffe's heavier armament proved less decisive. Bombers, deprived of adequate fighter cover, suffered crippling losses. The air over Kent became a chaotic ballet of metal and smoke. How did German command fail to adapt quickly to this unexpected agility? Why did the initial overconfidence in their numerical and technological superiority turn into a growing nightmare mid-battle? Could the broken radio intercepts from that day hint at an intelligence breakdown too costly to ignore? In response, the Luftwaffe scrambled to develop countermeasures. New tactical doctrines emphasized hit-and-run attacks, minimizing dogfights where the Spitfire excelled. Pilots were instructed to leverage altitude and speed advantages, avoid low-level turning engagements, and coordinate tighter bomber escorts. Modifications to the Bf-109 included engine upgrades and heavier armaments to try to outgun the British fighter. Yet RAF intelligence intercepted German tactical transmissions, revealing confusion and frustration. A captured Luftwaffe manual from late 1940 advises pilots to avoid prolonged engagement with Spitfires and prioritize bomber protection. Meanwhile, the British refined their own tactics, exploiting radar coverage and the Spitfire's climb rate to intercept raids earlier. Was the German shift in tactics a tacit admission of defeat in the skies? Did these adaptations come too late, sealing the fate of their daylight bombing campaigns? What critical intelligence was being lost in translation between the front lines and command? The turning point came by September 1940, as the Luftwaffe faced mounting losses and dwindling resources. A secret map from RAF Fighter Command archives shows the shrinking safe corridors for German bombers. The Spitfire had effectively forced the Luftwaffe to choose between abandoning daylight raids or risking catastrophic attrition. German bomber formations were thinned, and night raids became the norm, conceding air superiority. German command documents hint at internal disputes. Some officers blamed inferior aircraft, others condemned poor pilot training and flawed strategy. Yet the silent truth lay in the Spitfire's unyielding presence, a shadow that turned every daylight operation into a gamble with disaster. Why did German high command resist acknowledging the Spitfire's impact until it was too late? Could a different response have altered the aerial war, or was the Spitfire's design destined to tip the scales irrevocably? Each episode is a document I pull from the dust of the archives. The Spitfire was more than a fighter. It was a symbol of a turning tide, mocked, underestimated, yet unstoppable. Its story reveals how technological innovation, combined with tactical brilliance and stubborn resilience, turned the Luftwaffe's grand daylight bombing strategy into a catastrophic failure. Share your own stories. Many of you have relatives who lived through that time, and your words help connect personal memory with archival evidence. Stay curious. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode tomorrow. By late 1940, the psychological toll on Luftwaffe pilots was palpable. Intercepted letters from squadron commanders to high command reveal a growing sense of impotence and frustration. "The Spitfire haunts every sortie," one wrote. "Our bombers are exposed, and morale is slipping." The pilots' jeering dismissals from early war briefings had given way to whispered fears. The soundscape over southern England changed dramatically. The sharp crack of .303 machine guns against the steady drone of Merlin engines, punctuated by the brittle rattle of German tracer fire failing to find its mark. A photo captured by a reconnaissance plane shows a battered Heinkel. He 11-1, trailing smoke, a stark contrast to the nimble silhouette of Spitfire circling overhead. Inside German operations rooms, maps cluttered with red markers traced failed bombing runs, each one a testament to miscalculation. What had begun as overconfidence spiraled into desperation. How could such a technologically advanced force be undone by what they once called a laughable fighter? Was there a deeper flaw in the Luftwaffe's approach that extended beyond aircraft capabilities? Behind the scenes, British intelligence capitalized on this shift. Decoded Enigma messages revealed the Luftwaffe's increasing reliance on reconnaissance and tactical experimentation, desperately searching for a way to neutralize the Spitfire threat. Response: the RAF accelerated improvements in pilot training and aircraft maintenance, ensuring that Spitfires were battle-ready at a moment's notice. A rare color photograph from an RAF maintenance hangar shows technicians meticulously tuning Merlins, each engine a heartbeat sustaining Britain's defense. Meanwhile, Luftwaffe engineers scrambled to modify existing aircraft, pushing the Bf-109's Daimler-Benz engines to their limits and experimenting with heavier armaments. Yet these adaptations often compromised maneuverability, precisely the Spitfire's greatest advantage. Was this a case of technological overreach driven by panic? And why did German command fail to develop a fighter with comparable agility before the battle intensified? The interplay between innovation and desperation shaped every dogfight, but the Spitfire seemed always to stay one step ahead. The human element proved decisive. RAF pilots, many barely out of training, found in the Spitfire a trusted companion, machine that responded to instinct and skill. Diaries recovered from number. 92 Squadron described the sensation of dancing with the enemy, exploiting the Spitfire's superior roll rate and tight turning circle to outmaneuver Bf-10-9s. In contrast, Luftwaffe memoirs recount the terror of facing an opponent who seemed to anticipate every move, a ghost in the sky capable of striking and vanishing in a blur. The psychological edge shifted as German pilots began to question their own equipment, doubting whether any upgrade could close the gap. An intercepted radio transmission from August 1940 reveals a pilot's terse message. "Spitfire is not just a plane, it's a nightmare." How did this growing psychological warfare influence Luftwaffe tactics and morale? Was the Spitfire's impact as much about mind games as machine performance? Amid these aerial battles, a lesser-known episode unfolded: the fight for radar superiority. British chain home stations, vital for early warning, provided Spitfire squadrons with precious minutes to intercept incoming raids. Luftwaffe plans to jam or destroy these stations repeatedly failed, leaving German bombers blind to the impending threat. A decrypted Luftwaffe directive from September 1940 orders intensified attacks on radar sites, yet maps show that many remained operational despite heavy bombardment. The synergy between radar intelligence and Spitfire deployment turned the tide, enabling fighters to engage on advantageous terms. The Germans' inability to neutralize this network compounded their losses. What strategic errors led to the failure of these attacks? Did German command underestimate the integration of technology and tactics that powered Britain's air defense? The invisible web of radar and radio proved as lethal as any machine gun. As autumn deepened, the Luftwaffe's daylight raids ground to a near halt. The balance of power in the skies had irrevocably shifted. Spitfires, once mocked, now ruled the airspace with a quiet dominance. A panoramic photograph from a downed German bomber shows Spitfires swooping in formation, their elliptical wings casting long shadows over the English countryside. The cost was severe. German bomber losses soared to unsustainable levels. Pilot training could not keep pace with attrition, and morale plummeted. Internal German communications hint at growing dissent, some commanders advocating for a complete tactical overhaul, others resigning to the inevitability of defeat. The Wanal Spitfire's role was no longer just defensive, it was transformative, forcing the Luftwaffe to abandon daylight precision bombing and shift to less effective night raids. How did this shift reshape the wider strategic landscape of the war? Could the Luftwaffe have salvaged their campaign with different decisions, or was the Spitfire's ascendancy a foregone conclusion? In the cold dawn of October 1940, a secret Luftwaffe memorandum surfaced, revealing a stark admission: the Spitfire's superiority in maneuverability and pilot confidence has rendered our daylight bombing strategy untenable. The document, stained with coffee and hastily annotated, lay buried for decades before its rediscovery. It highlighted a critical resource dilemma: fuel shortages, aircraft production bottlenecks, and pilot attrition combined to erode the Luftwaffe's offensive capacity. Overlaid on this grim reality was a weather map, showing the increasingly frequent overcast skies above England, which the Germans hoped would hamper RAF fighter response. Yet the Spitfire's operational flexibility allowed it to exploit even brief clearings, slipping through cloud cover with deadly precision. A black and white photograph captured this moment. A Spitfire streaking through a patch of sunlight, its polished wings glinting like a predator in the sky. How did the Germans fail to anticipate the cumulative effect of these tactical and environmental factors? Was there a moment when a different strategic choice could have reversed their fortunes, or was the Spitfire's impact an unstoppable force by then? Meanwhile, British war planners quietly adjusted their own priorities. A recently declassified report from RAF Fighter Command stresses the importance of maintaining Spitfire production and pilot training at all costs. The report includes a detailed inventory of spare parts and engine components, underscoring the logistical backbone supporting frontline squadrons. At the same time, the Luftwaffe's efforts to develop new aircraft like the Focke-Wulf FW-190 were hampered by delays and resource diversion to other fronts. The contrast between Britain's focused industrial war effort and Germany's stretched production lines became glaringly obvious. A captured Luftwaffe production schedule reveals repeated postponements and cancellations in fighter development programs, often attributed to shifting priorities and mismanagement. Could the Spitfire's battlefield success have been matched by a German technological breakthrough if not for these systemic issues? Or was Britain's industrial resilience the hidden weapon that made Spitfire dominance possible? By the winter of 1940–41, the psychological landscape of the air war had irrevocably shifted. Memoirs from both sides reveal a growing mythos surrounding the Spitfire, a symbol of British defiance and tactical ingenuity. RAF pilots spoke of the aircraft as an extension of their will, capable of turning the tide even when outnumbered. German pilots, conversely, described it as a relentless specter, one that forced them into desperate gambits and eroded their confidence. A rare film reel, recently restored, shows a dogfight over the Thames estuary. Spitfires weaving through gunfire, their pilots' faces grim but determined. This human dimension, the belief in the machine, added a force multiplier that technical specifications alone cannot measure. How much did morale and perception dictate the unfolding of air battles? Could the Luftwaffe have countered this intangible factor, or was it an inherent advantage embedded in the Spitfire's design and deployment? The aftermath of the Battle of Britain set the stage for a broader Allied strategic advantage. The Spitfire's role extended beyond immediate defense. It became a template for fighter design and air combat doctrine worldwide. German attempts to adapt with new tactics and aircraft could not erase the lessons learned in those crucial months. The evolving electronic, warfare, pilot training methods, and combined arms coordination all bore the imprint of the Spitfire's legacy. A declassified RAF tactical manual from 1942 outlines dogfighting techniques pioneered during the battle, emphasizing tight turns and energy management, principles embodied by the Spitfire. Meanwhile, German post-war analysis acknowledges the aircraft's decisive role in frustrating the Luftwaffe's ambitions. How did this singular fighter shape not only a battle, but the entire trajectory of aerial warfare? Was the Spitfire's triumph a product of design, doctrine, or something more elusive, a symbol of resistance crystallized in metal and fire? As the war progressed, the Spitfire evolved, adapting to new threats and theaters. Its image, once derided by German propaganda as a minor nuisance, transformed into a legend whispered among Allied forces. The Luftwaffe's failure to neutralize it in 1940 remained a haunting lesson in underestimation and hubris. A faded photograph of a battle-worn pilot clutching a Spitfire model encapsulates this transformation, from mockery to respect, from illusion to reality. The Spitfire did not just survive the Luftwaffe's onslaught, it redefined the very meaning of air superiority. What deeper truths lie behind this transformation? Was the Spitfire's victory inevitable, or did it emerge from a complex web of chance, innovation, and unyielding spirit? The final phase of the Luftwaffe's campaign against the Spitfire was marked by desperation and fragmentation. Internal German communications from early 1941 reveal a fracturing command structure, with competing factions blaming each other for the failure to suppress the British fighter threat. Pilots reported increasing fatigue and dwindling supplies. A tactical map from February 1941 shows shrinking operational zones as Spitfire patrols forced German bombers into ever narrower corridors. Meanwhile, British intelligence intercepted plans for intensified night bombing raids, signaling a reluctant shift away from the daylight operations that had proven suicidal. A haunting photograph taken over London shows the charred remains of a Heinkel He-111, emblazoned with the scars of countless dogfights, a stark testament to the Spitfire's deadly effectiveness. How did the Luftwaffe's strategic inertia contribute to this collapse? Was their failure to adapt rooted in pride, miscalculation, or a deeper systemic flaw? Amid these final struggles, the Spitfire's role transcended pure combat. It became a symbol of resilience for Britain's people, a beacon of hope amid relentless bombing. Wartime propaganda posters immortalize its silhouette against the Union Jack, blending technology and national identity into an inseparable whole. Pilots' letters speak not only of machine performance, but of fighting for a cause, their aircraft embodying the defiance of a nation under siege. Yet beneath this iconic status lay a complex reality. The Spitfire was not invincible, nor was it perfect. Maintenance challenges, pilot shortages, and the relentless pressure of modern warfare tested its limits daily. What hidden costs were born in this prolonged struggle? How did the myth of the Spitfire shape not just the battle, but the very memory of the war itself? In the end, the Spitfire's legacy is a tapestry woven from innovation, courage, and circumstance. It turned the Luftwaffe's daylight bombing campaign, once a cornerstone of German strategy, into a costly failure. The aircraft's design, tactical employment, and symbolic power combined to create an obstacle Germany could not overcome. Yet the full story remains layered with unanswered questions about intelligence failures, command decisions, and the chaotic fog of war. Each photograph, each intercepted message, each pilot's testimony adds a fragment to this complex mosaic. The Spitfire was both a machine and a mirror, reflecting the strengths and weaknesses of those who flew it and those who faced it.